Magiswords.
There's a lot riding on Cartoon Network's newest series, Mighty Magiswords. After the announcements of several big shows ending soon, the mess that is the Powerpuff Girls reboot, and their average airing schedule looking like this, it really needs a new hit to keep it from becoming bad. Mighty Magiswords started out as a series of shorts aired online and on mobile devices last year. The show, created by Carrozza, chronicles the adventures of warriors for hire Prohyas and Vamber, who use magical weapons called Magiswords to complete quests for the odd inhabitants of their equally weird kingdom. When previewing the shorts back in July, I thought that it had promise, but was ultimately bogged down with poor animation and pacing. But now that it's a full series, let's see if Mighty Magiswords will improve upon the shorts, or if it will just be another forgettable offering from Cartoon Network. Let's talk about what I liked first. To start, the animation is excellent. In the original shorts, everything was stiff and slow. The backgrounds and characters still look good, but everything else fit the fact that this was a web series. But through the power of a television budget, the animation is now about on par with Wander Over Yonder. There's a lot of great facial expressions, the action scenes are lots of fun to watch, and there are even some cool little touches like the hair on the warrior siblings. It also finally escapes the trend of all Cartoon Network shows having backgrounds or characters that look identical to another series. I've yet to see an episode of this show where the animation took a step down, and compared to the last new show from Cartoon Network that I watched, I am pleasantly surprised. It's nowhere near perfect, due to a lot of cheap effects and a little stiffness, but the show is still a nice treat on the eyes. Another thing to like are the Magiswords themselves. They're nonsensical and come out of nowhere, but they're never the only factor used to solve a problem. Usually the characters talk it out or combine previously used Magiswords. There's a great element of creativity and surprise with the swords, but they're never the only driving force behind the plot. The voice acting is also pretty good for the most part. The actors for our protagonists, Vamber and Prohyas, do some good work, and Mr. Lawrence, the voice of Plankton from SpongeBob, does a couple of voices, and it's always great to hear him. Also noteworthy are the rival wizards to the warriors, Morbidia and Gato, one of which is voiced by internet personality Aaron Hansen, aka Egoraptor. It's a cool inclusion to have him here, even if I'm not a huge fan of his videos, but if you were going to make an effort to put him in here, you could have at least made him more than a cheap alternative to George Takei. Like, there's seriously an episode that ends with Aaron's character saying, "Oh my." If Cory in the House could get the real guy to appear on their show, then Mighty Magiswords certainly could too. But sadly, this is where my positives end for this show, and my negatives start with the voice acting. Some of the voice work just seems lazy. Some characters have the exact same voice as others, or ones that really grate on the ears. The biggest offender to this is Grupp, this Yoshi dragon thing that hangs out with the warriors. It would be fine if he only appeared once, but he is a main character. So prepare your eardrums for a character who sounds like this. In addition to the full episodes, there are also new shorts. They, however, share all of the same problems I had with the first batch of shorts, including the poor animation and pacing. So there isn't much more to say about them besides that they introduce elements that are expanded upon in the TV show. So you have to go out of your way to look them up online in order to understand what exactly is going on. This is pretty annoying when I don't have much interest in the show and its characters, but I'll get back to that later. Online, there are also vlogs featuring the characters from the show, and they are some of the most pandering things I've ever seen from Cartoon Network, and that's saying something. The voices literally sound phoned in, and I could make a more entertaining vlog with a budget of nothing. Some have said that this entire show feels like a corporate creation, something that was made just to appeal to kids and make a quick buck. But I would disagree. With the exception of these vlogs, the world of Mighty Magiswords feels very creative, and you can tell that the crew really knows and likes these characters. I wish that I could say the same about this show, but it doesn't exactly want me to take my time taking everything in. Let's discuss the thing that causes all of the problems I have with this series, the pacing. Literally everything moves a mile per minute. So much so that it is quite easy for you to miss jokes or soak in anything. It never takes a break to relax, and it causes much of the show to have little effect on me besides annoying me. I don't care about these characters, I don't find them funny, and I don't know much about the world. The show would rather try to cram in an extra half of an episode than give me a reason to want to keep watching. It's one thing to make the most of the time that you have when telling a story, but this episode takes that concept way too far. Almost every other cartoon I've seen with an 11-minute episode format has been able to tell a coherent story without going faster than the human mind can comprehend. So why is Mighty Magiswords such a huge exception? I think the reason is because sometimes the stories have a little too much to them. Oftentimes there's a setup or a small portion of an episode that should have been shortened or cut to make time for a more coherent plot. Sadly, the plots themselves are nothing special. Sometimes they just meander around for 11 minutes without much of a rhyme or reason. Or have concepts that could make for some really good episodes, but I didn't care because the episode was constantly rolling around at the speed of sound. In short, Mighty Magiswords is not a show that I will be coming back to soon. How much you'll enjoy it is all up to if you can enjoy it when it's moving faster than Cartoon Network is dropping in quality. Sure, it's got great animation, some well-executed concepts, and some good voice acting, but everything else just isn't given enough room to breathe, and it creates a show that just needs to slow down. If you want a fun and creative fantasy cartoon, just stick to the first few seasons of Adventure Time, and check this out if you're really interested. For now, I give Mighty Magiswords a 6 out of 10. Next time, I'll be looking at another new series that recently came out this fall, Milo Murphy's Law from Disney XD. I'll try to have that video out by sometime next week. But until then, thank you for watching, and let me share with you something that I just recently noticed. Cartoon Network began in the early 90s and was popular with almost everyone, as their stuff was well made and could appeal to a lot of audiences. It was very successful up until the late 2000s, where it focused too much on things no one cared about, and entered a dark age. It almost returned to its original quality in the early 2010s, but has recently struggled to remain great due to confusion and poor management. Cartoon Network is the Sonic the Hedgehog of television, so I guess this is the unofficial Mighty Magiswords theme song.